Okay, so we're going to get away from solving systems for a little while. We're going to deal with transformations. There are 4 types of transformations, and they are as follows. There are technical terms. The first one is a translation, and we will sometimes see that referred to as a slide. That's the first one we're going to deal with today. The second transformation is a reflection, and you'll sometimes hear that referred to, or the easy way to talk about it is a flip. Then we have a rotation, which is just that. You can call it a spin if you want. You can take the coordinate plane and spin it. And then the final one is a dilation. And a dilation is just like your pupils, I should say, not your eyes, dilate with more or less light. They get larger or smaller. So it's either going to grow or shrink, depending on the amount of light that's coming in. So with a translation, I can perform a translation on the coordinate plane. So we're still going to be plotting points, but instead of these points leading to a line, they will typically lead to a shape. Okay. Now our first example, and ignore this due date, this was taken from a different year. Our first example is just a single point. So with that single point, they ask us to graph the point -3, 5, and labeled it A. So we're going to graph that. So from the origin, we go to the left 3 and up 5, and we put a dot there, and that dot is called A. Then they're asking us to graph A prime. That little symbol right there is called prime. Usually we just use like a tick mark. It kind of almost looks like a number 1, as if that A is raised to the first power. And that's at 2, 4. So I go to the right 2 and up 4. Now they're asking us to write a rule. Describe how we can get from point A to point A prime on the coordinate plane. And you can do it 2 different ways. I typically choose left and right first, and then up or down, but it really makes no difference. So I'll get my laser pointer, and we start here at A. In order to get lined up with A prime, I have to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right. So I go back here and I go right 5, comma, and then from there I'm going to go down 1, and I land directly on A prime. Now, what does that mean in terms of the coordinate? So you look down below and you see you got your parentheses with point A at -3, 5. So what are we doing to the -3? Well, we said we are going to the right 5, so that's a +5. And what are we doing with the 5? Down 1, so that's a -1. Okay. So that's a single point. Now we're going to plot a triangle, and then we're going to move that triangle. Okay, so we have to plot the points A, B, C. Point A is at -3, 5, which is where we were in the previous problem. So there's point A. Point B is at -6, up 2. There's B. And point C is at -2, up 1. There's C. I usually put the labels, the A, B, and C, on the outside where I know I'm going to draw a shape. This is creating a triangle, so I want those labels outside of that triangle. So you just have to be a little bit careful about where you put them. Now, in order to tell the difference between the pre-image, that's this shape, and the new shape, which we call the image of this triangle, I usually shade one of the two in. It doesn't really matter which one you shade in. You don't have to shade the whole thing, just enough to see that there is a difference between them. Now, what you're going to notice is that the difference is not in the size or the shape. It's going to be exactly the same size and exactly the same shape. Okay, with all transformations, translations in particular, reflections and rotations, all three of those, the size and shape does not change. The only one that changes is the dilation, and that's because of what happens with the dilation. It grows or shrinks. Okay, so you should have a triangle that looks identical to this one. Now, because we're drawing it freehand, it's not going to look exactly perfect, but you will hopefully get the idea. Now we're going to go to A prime, which is to the right 2 and up 4. And B prime is left 1, up 1, real close to that original point C. And point C prime is right 3 and up 0. Okay, so I just put those little tick marks there. Now, you can't do this necessarily. Well, you probably can on your iPads. You can draw in a different color. That will tell us also that this is the new shape. And I'm not going to shade this one in. All right, so write out how you would describe the translation of triangle ABC to triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. Well, we're doing exactly what we did in the previous problem. This one happens to mirror that. It's the same idea, but it's 3 points. So each point moves. What do we say above? We said right 5. And down 1. And we can check that if we take point C and follow that. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and down 1, and we land on C prime. So it seems to work. Okay, same idea with the next example. And I'm going to change one of the points here, because without a change, it creates a straight line. So I'm going to say that instead of up 1, we're going to go up 3 for the point Y. So X, we're going to the left 5 and up 2. There's my X. Y, we're going to the left 4 and up 3. And point Z, we're going 0 and down 3. So this is going to make a triangle, but it's going to be a very long, flat triangle. So I connect these. And I shade it in. Looks like a very skinny piece of pizza. All right, and now we're going to follow the translation that they're suggesting to get to X prime, Y prime, Z prime. So each of my X values, I'm going to add 3, and each of my Y values, I'm going to subtract 2. So here's how I do this. I go right up underneath each of the X values, and I put a +3. So all 3 of the X values, I put +3. And all 3 of the Y values, I write a -2. So that means I'm taking 2 away from each one of the y values, and I'm adding 3 to each one of the x values. -5 plus 3 is -2, and 2 minus 2 is 0. So that new point should end up at -2, 0. Y prime, -4 plus 3 is -1, and 3 minus 2 is 1. Point Z prime, 0 plus 3 is 3, and -3 minus 2 is -5. Okay, so now I can plot those points. X prime, and again I'm going to change the color. X prime is at -2, 0. That is right here. It happens to fall right on the one side of that other triangle. So there's X prime. Y prime is left 1, up 1. Y prime. And Z prime is to the right 3 and down 5. And after you draw these, if you see that it does not look like the same triangle, just moved, then you know you did something wrong. Okay, again, we're talking relatively close. We're not going to, any of us, draw it perfectly. And that's it for that one. Okay. What I would like you to do after you finish taking all of these notes is I would like you to try the same thing that we just did with QRS. It should say RS here. That should be an R, and that should be an S. They changed up the letters on us. Okay, so that we get Q prime, R prime, S prime. So do the same exact process. So I'll give you a hint. We're going to subtract 4 from every x value. So -4, -4, -4. And we're going to add 3 to every y value. +3, +3, +3. Okay. So try that. Write down the new points. Plot both the original triangle and the new triangle. Okay, and I'm going to stop there and let you take your notes.